Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea proceeds with suspending the licenses of trainee doctors who defied the government's return to work deadline. Despite warnings, thousands of them are still on a walkout, with some new interns and resident doctors having also given up their duties to join the protest. Fighter jets are ready for takeoff, marking the start of the annual combined military exercise between Seoul and Washington, the Freedom Shield. An array of joint drills on land, at sea, and in the air are conducted, strengthening combat readiness amid the North's escalating threats. While visiting the city of Daegu, President Yoon vows millions of dollars worth of investments for a new industrial leaf for the city, with a new integrated airport to be built in 2030, a robot test zone, and an AI center.
Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with the ongoing standoff between the government and doctors in protest against the medical school quota expansion. South Korea is proceeding with legal action against doctors who defied the February 29th return to work deadline. The government is taking steps to suspend the licenses of thousands of junior doctors who are still on a walkout despite the final call. Our Shin-young has our top story.
The government said on Monday that it had begun procedures to suspend the licenses of around 7,000 trainee doctors who have yet to return to work. It gave the doctors until last Thursday to return to work, but said it would grant leniency if they reported for medical duties at their hospitals by Sunday. However, those failing to do so would see the government commence administrative and judicial procedures, such as the suspension of their medical licenses for between 3 months and a year, or the seeking of official indictments. The latest count by the Ministry of Health and Welfare's inspection teams after Thursday's deadline showed that only 565 resident doctors had returned to work despite the warnings, with over 8,900 still absent from their posts nationwide. The ministry will continue inspections to confirm these numbers, allowing doctors to defend themselves through statements of opinion.
The government plans to conduct on-site investigations to respond to violations according to the law and principles. In particular, strict and prompt measures will be taken against key officials responsible for the collective action that has led to chaos in the medical field.
In the meantime, police have informed 5 former or current Korean Medical Association executives that they will be summoned for questioning between Wednesday and Thursday. This comes after search and seizure warrants were issued last week. The police have already imposed an overseas travel ban on 4 of them and will soon do the same for the remaining individual. A police investigation was started following an official complaint filed by the Health Ministry last Tuesday against the 5 officials, citing multiple allegations against them, including a possible violation of the medical law. Shin-young, Arirang News.
And with thousands of doctors still on a walkout, hospitals are in chaos, facing shortages of doctors and medical services. But things are about to get worse, with some new interns and resident doctors having also given up their duties to join the protest. Our Song Yoo-jin reports.
As the nationwide walkout of trainee doctors enters its 3rd week, hospitals are grappling with an increasingly severe shortage of medical staff. Despite the government's warning of license suspensions for doctors who do not return to work, the majority of trainee doctors at hospitals across the country did not show up for duty on Monday. Here at Chungbuk National University Hospital in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, only 8 out of more than 120 who have received return-to-work orders showed up to work. Because of this, only 40% of hospital beds are currently in use, and its emergency room can only accept 1/3 of its usual patient load.
The CT scan results have been delayed for 2 weeks now. We need the results as soon as possible to find the cause and proceed with the proper treatment. But the patient isn't feeling well, and the results aren't out yet, so it's frustrating.
However, these hospitals are expected to face an even more dire shortage of staff due to the absence of new trainee doctors. Hospitals had hoped things would get better when newly appointed interns and residents were due to start in March. However, on Monday, the first workday of the month, even the country's 5 major hospitals located in Seoul did not see the majority of their new trainee doctors. Around 90% of soon-to-be interns at major hospitals in Seoul reportedly withdrew from signing their training contracts last week. While fellow doctors have been filling the healthcare void left by those who resigned, some hospitals are now seeing these doctors also leave their positions. For example, in Jeollanam-do Province at Jeonnam National University Hwasun Hospital, out of the 52 new fellow doctors, 21 gave up their jobs, and 13 out of 16 did so at Chosun University Hospital in the city of Gwangju. In Daegu University Hospital in Cheonan, Chungcheongnam-do Province, only 5 out of 10 fellow doctors have signed their contracts. To help address this medical void, since last month, 12 military hospitals have opened their emergency rooms.
My father broke his hip joint, and because of his existing health issues, finding a hospital for surgery was a challenge. Many hospitals were unavailable due to the walkout, so we were feeling stuck. Then, we saw on TV that military hospitals were opening their emergency rooms to civilians. We gave them a call, they said yes, so we rushed to the hospital.
According to Seoul's defense ministry, so far, more than 120 civilians have received medical services at these hospitals. 송유진, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, fighter jets are ready for takeoff, marking the start of the annual combined military exercise between Seoul and Washington, the Freedom Shield. Around 48 joint drills on land, at sea, and in the air are conducted, which is double compared to last year, upgrading combat readiness amid the North's escalating threats. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea's F-15K fighter jets have arrived at the U.S. Air Force Base in the city of Pyeongtaek to begin Seoul and Washington's first buddy squadron training of the year. The 5-day training began as the Allies on Monday kicked off their annual combined military exercise, Freedom Shield. Monday's air drill is one of many field training exercises conducted during Freedom Shield. This year, there are a total of 48 combined drills on land, at sea, and in the air, double the number in the same period last year. They also conduct computer-simulated command post training with a focus on countering North Korea's nuclear operations. It's based on scenarios that reflect a range of threats within the security environment, such as detecting and intercepting cruise missiles. The navies from both countries got together in Busan on Monday to participate in the command post training, as did the Combined Air Component Command at the Korea Air and Space Operations Center at Osan Air Base. Meanwhile, South Korean reconnaissance aircraft RQ-4 Global Hawk and US RC-135V reconnaissance plane were reportedly spotted in apparent moves to monitor North Korea. Freedom Shield primarily aims to strengthen Seoul and Washington's combined readiness and defensive posture amid escalating North Korean threats, a move most likely to anger the North. The exercise will run until March 14th. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korea's first military spy satellite, launched last year, is set to undergo advanced operational testing of its ability to perform complex reconnaissance tasks following specific commands later this month. The Ministry of National Defense said on Monday that the satellite has been functioning normally in orbit since it was launched from the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California last December. Military sources have reportedly said the satellite recently transmitted images of Pyongyang, where the regime's leader Kim Jong-un's office and residences are located. The satellite is expected to begin tasked reconnaissance missions by June or July. South Korea is set to launch another satellite in April from Florida and then a third in November. Neighboring China is hosting its largest annual political event starting today, and the country's economy remains high on the agenda. Lee Seung-jae has more.
The National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference kicks off on Monday, with the National People's Congress opening on Tuesday, as China begins its largest political event of the year, known as the Two Sessions. This also means that its Congress will begin to gauge the direction of state affairs under President Xi Jinping, who has entered the second year of his third term in office. At the center of attention at this year's Two Sessions will be China's economy and its economic growth target for this year. Amid concerns over deflation and the slumping real estate market, global investment institutions are predicting China's economic growth rate this year to be at the 4% range. However, looking ahead, Beijing has boasted a strong resilience, great potential, and ample vitality, with many predicting that China will propose a growth target of 5%. There will also be focus on who Beijing will name as their next top diplomat. According to analysts, the current head of the Chinese Communist Party's International Liaison Department, Liu Jinchao, is being considered as the person to replace Wang Yi as foreign minister. Pundits say with the U.S. presidential election coming up in November and no telling who will be sitting in the Oval Office, China is playing it cautious as Liu is considered to have a moderate view on the U.S. Attention will also be on what kind of message will be communicated on the Taiwan issue and whether this year's two sessions will allow for a tighter grip on power for President Xi. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley secured her first victory over former President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. in the Republican presidential primary on Sunday. Haley won almost 63% of the vote to Trump's 33%. This win makes Haley the first woman to win a Republican primary in U.S. history. It is seen as a largely symbolic win, however, as Trump has dominated every state primary or caucus so far in the Republican campaign and is likely to face Joe Biden in the November election. Trump is also expected to win more delegates this week on Super Tuesday, the biggest day of nominating contests. On the local front, while visiting the city of Daegu, President Yoon vows millions of dollars worth of investments, promising to redraw the industrial map of that city with a new integrated airport to be built in 2030, a robot test zone, and an AI center. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young has the details.
Daegu City will become a launchpad for South Korea's new leap forward, with multi-million-dollar plans to build a robot test zone and an AI data center there. That's according to President Yoon on Monday, who held his administration's 16th round of policy discussions on people's livelihoods in the city of Daegu. Building on its traditional trade in machinery, metals and parts, Yoon pledged to redraw Daegu's industrial map, adding world-class infrastructure to support new cutting-edge technologies.
대구의 주력 산업도 AI, 빅데이터를 비롯한 첨단 디지털 기술과 융합하여 고도의 경쟁력을 갖게 될 것입니다. 대구 서남부는 로봇과 모빌리티 산업 거점으로, 대구의 동부는 AI와 디지털 산업 거점으로 키울 것입니다.
The president pledged to back the city's plans to build a $157 million national robot test zone by 2028. The site will offer virtual and real-world settings and supportive facilities for developers to test diverse robots and software. Daegu will also build a national innovation district in its downtown area. The so-called Susong Alpha City will feature a $600 million AI data center built by telecom giant SK to drive world-class research and development in the digital sector by innovative firms of all shapes and sizes. To put the city on the global map, the administration will speed up the construction of a new integrated airport to 2030 and link it to a new high-speed rail line and a private expressway, each stretching from Daegu to upper counties in the wider Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Stressing the need for not only industrial but also cultural infrastructure, the president also said the city will build new entertainment venues in central Daegu to attract young people as well as tourists. It will also develop facilities at Mount Palgongsan, which was newly designated as a national park, as well as construct a contemporary art gallery and a musical complex to add to the city's cultural scenery. To further enhance the well-being of Daegu residents, the government will invest massively in medical schools at universities in and surrounding Daegu, as they increase the number of medical students to provide much-needed access to quality healthcare. This is in line with the administration's firm stance to expand the national enrollment quota on medical schools, which has remained unchanged for some 30 years, despite the sheer shortage of medical staff, especially in areas outside Seoul. Yoon began a series of policy talks in January to engage with citizens nationwide on specific issues affecting key industries, jobs and welfare in their regions. 오수영, Arirang News.
Continuing his visit to Daegu on Monday, President Yoon Suk-yeol promised that the city's Palgongsan National Park will be hugely improved with better infrastructure such as hiking trails and parking lots. The president's comments came as he joined the celebrations for the park becoming the country's 23rd national park last May, as March 3rd is the National Park Day in South Korea. Once one gains national park status, its operation budget will be supported by the national government, which means more financial and infrastructure support. Palgongsan National Park is home to around 5,200 wildlife species and attracts more than 3.5 million people per year. South Korea's overall industrial output rose in January, marking an increase for 3 months in a row. But production in semiconductors sharply declined compared to the month earlier, and facility investment also retreated bigger than expected. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin has the latest numbers.
South Korea's overall industrial production and private spending rose during the first month of the year while investments fell. Data from Statistics Korea on Monday shows that industrial production in January inched up 0.4% compared to the previous month. That's the third increase in as many months. The agency attributed the rise mainly to a growth of more than 12% in construction production, which recorded an on-month rise for the first time since September last year. Output in the service sector also edged up 0.1% thanks to a robust demand for ICT services such as software development. Production in the manufacturing industry, however, saw a drop of 1.4% due to a decline in production levels in semiconductors. Chip production in January fell for the first time in 3 months, but this was mostly due to base effects from chip production posting a large growth in November and December, according to Statistics Korea.
The chip sector overall and its exports are all doing well, so the index falling is mostly being seen as being due to base effects from it being so high in November and December last year. The index for January also was not very low, further indicating that this is due to base effects.
Retail sales, a barometer for private spending and consumer demand, saw a rise of 0.8% as people spent more on non-durable goods such as cosmetics and gasoline. But facility investment saw a decline of more than 5% compared to the previous month on the back of a slump in investment in the machinery and transport sectors. The official from the agency added that construction orders, which plunged more than 50% on year, the largest decline seen in more than 13 years, indicates industry outlook uncertainty despite January's robust performance, thus requiring further observation. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Staying on the economy, as grocery bills continue to burden households in Korea, more consumers are turning to convenience stores and frozen fruits. Our An Sung-jin explains why.
Consumers in South Korea are adopting a variety of strategies to ensure they spend wisely amid rising consumer prices. According to Statistics Korea, the increase in the price of groceries up to January remained in the 6% range for the fourth consecutive month compared to the year before. As more people look for ways to save on living costs, retail industries have also been catering to demand.
Convenience stores such as this one are following large retail stores and starting to sell own brand products, hoping to appeal to price-conscious consumers.
This convenience store saw its own brand products on top across multiple produce categories. For example, an own brand pack of eggs here is 45% cheaper than other brands and is the most bought as well. And some own brand products are as much as 60% cheaper than other brands.
Since large supermarkets are no longer as cheap, I go to convenience stores that are nearby. If snacks or drinks have the same ingredients, I tend to buy own brand products since they are cheaper.
Data from the Korea Chamber of Commerce noted that South Korea's own brand product industry saw an on-year rise of 11.8% from the fourth quarter of 2022 to the third quarter of 2023.
One way consumers have started saving money is by buying own brand products, which are cheaper but also reliable as they come from well-known retail stores. Own brand products in advanced countries already make up a large portion of grocery items.
Soaring grocery prices are mostly driven by surging fruit prices, which saw a drop in supply due to abnormal weather conditions. Fruit prices soared 26.9% in January, which is the biggest jump since January 2011. As a result, consumers are looking at other ways of getting fruit. According to Korea's Customs Service, frozen fruit imports hit a record high last year. This retail store saw an increase of 119% in 2023 compared to the year before.
I usually buy frozen strawberries or blueberries because they last longer and I can use them in juices. I also buy apples that have scratches at a cheaper price.
Though the government has been making plans to address soaring grocery prices, including reducing tariffs on imported fruit, consumers will continue to find ways to spend wisely while prices remain high. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In K-pop, BTS member V is releasing his new single, Friends, on March 15th at 1 p.m. Korea time. His agency, Big Hit Music, announced on Monday that it's a love song that takes inspiration from the pop soul R&B genre with English lyrics. V recorded the new track before he started his military service in December 2023 and is expected to be discharged in June 2025. This upcoming release comes about 6 months after his solo debut with the album Layover last September.
The last cold snap has receded and milder spring weather continued throughout the day today. However, ultrafine dust is a problem instead. Air quality will gradually recover as it will rain all over the country tomorrow. Starting with Jeju Island late in the afternoon, it will then rain on the south coast tonight. Rain clouds will gradually expand to the whole country tomorrow afternoon. Up to 60 millimeters of rain is expected on Jeju Island and up to 30 on the east and south coast. In the mountainous areas of Yeongdong and northeastern Gyeongsangbuk-do province, where the temperature is still low, the rain will turn into snowflakes. Until the day after tomorrow, up to 15 centimeters of heavy snow will fall in the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province. Tomorrow morning, temperatures will be 3 to 6 degrees higher than today. Seoul 4, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Gyeongju 6 degrees Celsius. As for daily highs, Seoul will get up to 12, Busan 10 degrees Celsius. No severe cold will be seen for the rest of the week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Hope everyone has a good start of the week.